Board. Okay. Great. So what we're going to chat about today is about the Women's Foundation of Florida's Giving Circle and our micro grants program. And we're really excited to share this information with all of you and encourage you to apply for grants. But I thought it would be helpful for you to understand a little bit about the Women's Foundation for those of you who are new to the organization. So you can see where it is this grant program fits within our larger focus on social change work. So with that, I'm very excited to turn things over to our Executive Director, Takeda King-Pang.
Hello, good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. For those that I don't know, I am Takeda, the Executive Director of the Women's Foundation of Florida. And we are based here in West Palm Beach. Our organization, as Judith has mentioned, is dedicated to empowering and educating women and girls because we know when we do, they're going to change how the world works. And that's where you ladies come in. So I'm really excited that we're able to bring the Giving Circle back after a brief hiatus over the pandemic seasons. And I'm really excited to dig into all of your proposals as you apply, because this opportunity to empower organizations like yours is just unparalleled. And I thank Judith for being the consistent voice saying we have to get this back up and running. We have to have this opportunity because it is such an amazing program. I'm really excited to share all of this information with you this morning.
Takeda, can you share a little bit about just some of the other Women's Foundation programs so they get a sense of the kind of work that we do that might give them some, not that the grants can't go beyond this, but gives you a sense of the kinds of programs that the board already invests in?
Absolutely. Some really great programs that are actually just launching. Our Florida Women on the Run program is a comprehensive nonpartisan campaign training and mentorship program. It's an 8-week virtual program where we invite all folks who want to learn how to run for office, work on a campaign, help someone else run for office, or run advocacy and run a community organization. And what really sets that program apart is that all of the trainings are being presented by current and former elected women. So you're learning from women who've gone through the process, and they are very impassioned about getting more women elected. And so there's this dual side to the program where the trainers are here to mentor young women or help mentor all women and help them run for office and win. And then you have the participants who are doing the same thing. And I will just share, in just this past month, we had 5 of our graduates run for office, and 3 of which are now sitting on city councils around Palm Beach County. So we're very excited to see that progress and continuing to encourage women to run for office. Another big part of our programming is professional development. In 2022, we launched our first new business boot camp, and it was very successful. We graduated 24 women who were looking for information and resources on how to A to Z start a business or grow it. And we have just recently relaunched that to kick off in April. This year, it will be an 8-week course that we're doing in partnership with the SCORE mentors of the Treasure Coast. And so we're bringing in the experts to provide that information. And we're really excited to see where that goes this time around. We did change the name. Now it's the Women's Business Boot Camp because we didn't want anyone who was working to grow their business to feel excluded. We also have additional professional development program, our Powerful series, which is a series of different programs and workshops around growing your career. And then we also have our girls programming. We launched last year our Girls Leadership Institute Advocacy to Action program. It was a 1-month, 4-session program that basically took young girls from 8th through 12th grade and showed them, number one, the importance of confidence and stepping into leadership, how their government works, and then we showed them how they can change how their government works and gave them tools and resources to do that so that they can create change in their own communities. So as you see, all of our programs are about empowering women and girls to give them the tools to take whatever it is they want to accomplish, whether it's a business goal, a personal goal, or simply improving their personal skills, and giving them the resources and the mentorship to really develop to become who they want to be. So I could go on forever, but I will stop there because I could take the whole hour talking about our awesome programs. But if you ever want to learn more about our other programs or the ones that I've spoken about, I will drop my contact information in the chat as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Takeda. And so what we thought we'd do today is want to talk to you a little bit about the grants program, take you through the application, and open it up for questions. So I'm going to ask Takeda to, while I'm chatting, drop into the chat the link to the application. You probably all have it because if you were able to register and sign up for this info session, you probably also saw the application, but we'll make sure you have that there. The idea of this application is it's meant to be super short and simple. So I will say if you're spending more than an hour or two filling out this application, you have way overthought it. Not because you shouldn't care deeply about the causes you're writing about, but because we really are trying to match the amount of effort and time you have to put into writing the grant with the donation that you're getting. These are what we consider micro grants. These are $2,500 grants. And so we are not expecting you to spend $5,000 of your time writing this application and filling it out. We want you to put effort and care into it and show your passion for the organizations and tell us what it is that you will be doing. But we recognize that you shouldn't have to spend a ton of time to fill this out. So this particular micro grant program, like I said, we will be awarding $2,500 gifts and donations to organizations to use for their general operating for these projects that empower women and girls in some way to create social change. And they are focused on projects and programs that are operating in Palm Beach and Broward counties. So your programs absolutely can expand the entire state, but you have to be able to show that the program is also operating in Palm Beach and Broward counties. So for example, if it's virtual, you can have people from all over in it, but your focus of marketing it and trying to engage and the numbers should primarily come from Palm Beach or Broward. If it's an in-person program, it should physically be held in Palm Beach or Broward counties. Sometimes folks will say, well, why just those two counties if you're a statewide organization? Over time, we hope to expand the grant making program and be able to give out grants in other parts of the state. But right now, the truth is we are physically housed in Palm Beach and Broward counties. That's where we do most of our local in-person programming. Our virtual programming spans statewide, but where we physically operate from is in South Florida. And part of our desire is to bring the grantees together when possible during this grant period. And so obviously that's a lot easier to do if they're all local and in the same area. So the other piece of this is that we're focused on what you keep hearing me call social change work and not direct service. Direct service is incredibly, incredibly important, but particularly with a grant of a micro grant of this size, we recognize that direct service grants are going to be less impactful to the larger community than potentially a social change grant. And so what do I mean by direct service versus social change? So direct service, again, incredibly important, but that would be, for example, somebody applying to say, hey, we want to feed 10 families. And so here's a grant for this, mobile food truck that's going to provide this meal for these 10 families that are dealing with food insecurity. Incredibly important work, but it isn't changing the root causes of why they're dealing with the food insecurity to begin with. So what would be a social change grant, for example, in that same realm could be that food pantry bringing together, 5 different women or young people from that program that they're helping with the food that they need in order to be able to be nourished and healthy, but to instead provide a session for them on how to write their stories and deliver them to the news, or write their stories and go speak to a group of elected officials in order to try to compel them to invest more in addressing the root causes of food insecurity in the region, right? So we're trying to look at social change advocacy work as opposed to direct service. That's kind of the focus of this. Then as far as, again, just kind of the general eligibility and requirements, like we said, the program that you're applying for should serve women and girls in Palm Beach or Broward County. You should be a 501c3 nonprofit. If you are not a nonprofit, you can work with a different registered nonprofit and create a fiscal sponsorship with them. But we can't give grants to individuals or for-profit businesses. You have to be a nonprofit or have a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. The organization should have an annual operating budget of under $3 million. If you're working with a fiscal sponsor and the fiscal sponsor's overall budget is larger, but your particular program and budget is smaller, that is okay. But for example, if you're a $5 to $10 million annual operating organization, of course we understand this grant is still really meaningful to you, but we're trying to work with smaller agencies that don't have the capacity to apply for these much bigger grants that are out there because they are smaller in size, and trying to really focus these micro grants on smaller groups that have less access to that kind of philanthropic support. If your organization has a religious affiliation, that is absolutely okay, but the project itself cannot be proselytizing. So what does that mean? That means that we've often had organizations that have ties to the faith community, that are deeply engaged in the faith community. That is wonderful. That is a great part of social change. The difference is, though, that it can't be specifically a program that is trying to engage people in practicing that particular faith or converting them to that particular faith. It can be these faith leaders or lay leaders within the community working on this social change project because that's values of their faith, but isn't supposed to specifically be about proselytizing in that particular way. And then the last piece is that to be considered for the grant, we won't, start really digging into the grants and reviewing them until after the application period. Right now, we're just collecting them. But the applications are due Friday, April 15th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And in the application is my email address, where you get to send them in. When I get it, the email, the proposals, I email back acknowledging receipt of it. If you don't get acknowledgement within 24 hours, you absolutely want to reach back out to me because you want to have that receipt that I received it. And by submitting the application, you're certifying that you're meeting all of the eligibility requirements. Then the application itself is, like I said, super short. We want to get to the heart of what it is you're trying to do to empower women and girls in Palm Beach and Broward counties, but we are not wanting you to spend hours and hours and hours upon this. It is 4 questions. 4 questions. The first question is, what program are you requesting support for, and what's the issue your program is addressing? The second question is, how will this program impact social change for women and girls and build their leadership? As you heard Takeda talk about, all of our programs all focus somehow on empowering the leadership skills of women and girls. So we're looking for how your program is going to be building out that leadership as they're doing whatever social change project. 3, the third question is, how does your organization define and measure success? So how are you going to define and measure success of this program? And then the fourth question is more around that technical assistance. We want to know what else it is the Women's Foundation can help, how else we can help you achieve your program goals. Our Giving Circle is volunteer-led. Takeda is our paid executive director. She runs all of the programs across the agency. This particular Giving Circle is made up of a group of volunteers that donate and collectively vote on the applications and decide where to leverage our collective resources. And so these Giving Circle members and all of our volunteers across the foundation that really help carry out all of the programs under Takeda's leadership work in all different fields. So we've got lawyers and marketing experts, graphic designers, other folks from nonprofits, government relations, engineers, scientists, coaches, so on and so forth. And so they're all very passionate about giving back in the community. So one of the other pieces about the grants is, yes, you get this micro grant of $2,500, but we also then have the ability for us to showcase your organization and share volunteer opportunities with the Giving Circle members and the larger Women's Foundation volunteer base. So this fourth question, how else can the Women's Foundation help you achieve your program goals, is a chance for you to say, hey, we actually need mentors for this program, or if you have a speaker on this topic, or, unrelated specifically to this program, we recently grew in size and we could use help with our accounting system, right? So we can't guarantee we have somebody on our team that can assist, but many, many times we're able to pair up phenomenal volunteers who are happy to donate their services and really help out your wonderful organization. So we like to make that pairing as well. So I have talked a lot, and so I'm going to stop now and see what questions you all have. And we're just really excited about helping you all apply for these grants. So who has some questions?
Judith, it's
Sure.
Nanette. Do you require a budget attachment?
Yep. So we do ask for a budget. We ask also on the application, it says attach a copy of your 501c3 IRS letter and a budget. We do not have a specific budget format. We certainly can send one for groups that haven't created one before, but we do ask for a basic budget. It looks like Charlene, you have your hand raised as well.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, we are. Welcome.
Two questions. The first one is associated with the budget. If the organization is looking to do some type of event, do you need an event budget in addition to the organization budget, a proposed event budget? And the second question related to budget is, with this particular grant, does it cover what does it cover, or maybe easier, what won't it cover? Like a lot of grants won't cover food,
Yeah.
or things like that. So those
Yeah,
are
great question. So our grant is completely general operating. You can use the money for whatever you want, right? As long as it's legal. So we don't specify we won't pay for food, or we won't pay for salary, or we won't pay for pencils or toilet paper, right? Like, we trust you all to know what is best and what you need in order to achieve the program. So there are no pieces of it that we say we won't fund this, but we will fund that instead. It's just a general operating grant, and again, they're small grants, micro grants, $2,500. And what the Giving Circle Grants Committee is doing is they're reading the overall proposals, these 4 questions. And if they think that that is a meaningful way to make social change, of course, there's a limited amount of grants. We would love to give out, one to every organization that meets the eligibility, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen. There's a limited number of grants, but they're not looking at like the specifics of, oh, they're applying for money for pencils as opposed to salary or something like that. We think that's more meaningful. We really educate the donors in the grants committee that they were looking at the budget to just understand what you're spending it on, but they're focusing their decisions really on the actual program request. And we trust and recognize that the organizations know that, hey, whatever this amount is that they're spending it on, that's what they need in order to carry out this program. So if it's an event, if it's a program, if it's food, if it's t-shirts, if it's a fee for a rental facility, whatever it is to carry out the program that you're doing, that is absolutely okay. And when we say put in the budget, we're very general about it. Some people will attach their program budget, some will attach their organization budget. Again, by filling out the grant, you're certifying that your overall organization budget meets the eligibility requirements, which is being under 3 million. So we, again, are trying, having written lots of grants myself, working at nonprofits, folks spend a lot of time analyzing the budgets. This is a $2,500 grant. So we're just trying to be transparent that we're not spending a ton of time looking at your budgets. You're certifying you're under 3 million. We're asking you to attach a budget. If we have questions about it, we will absolutely come back and ask them.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Who else has a question? These are great ones.
Good morning. This is
Good
Dorian
morning.
from Pay Center for Girls.
Welcome.
Palm Beach. Thank you. Thank you. I had a quick question regarding the budget. I know it seems silly, but so independently, Palm Beach obviously is a satellite office. Pay Center is a national, well,
Yeah.
more regional program. So would we be able to submit with Palm Beach's budget, independent budget, so that we don't have to be the master national budget that is a lot larger than 3 million. So
yeah, totally. So if you're,
Local budget,
the local
localized.
arm of a national group, you can
Okay.
just submit your local arms budget. That is totally fine.
terrific. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's it for me.
Great. Anybody else have questions?
Judith, it's Nanette again. Can you speak a little bit to measuring social change?
Yeah, so that is also open to your creative interpretation, right? We're wanting to understand what your goals of the project are and how you are evaluating your success, right? What's the program you're setting up? And when we ask how it is you're going to define and measure success, we want to know what that means to you. part of that is so that way we can figure out, are we able to assist in that, right? With that technical assistance, are we able to help in some way? But every grant is its own grant, and they're not being, looked at like, hey, this one says they're going to reach 20 girls and this one says it's going to reach 25. Let's go with the one that reaches 25, right? It's more around looking at just trying to get a sense of your vision and your mission. And part of that is how you're defining and measuring your own success. Now, more broadly, how does one measure and define, social change success? Well, as we know, nothing really can totally change overnight, and particularly with a $2,500 grant. So we're not expecting somebody to come in and say, hey, we're changing the entire voting system in Florida, right? And we're going to, with $2,500, change this, 100-year-old law. But as I was giving that example of somebody who's experiencing housing insecurity or food insecurity, maybe that particular grant is saying, hey, we're taking 5 families, we're providing them with some media training and public speaking training, and success looks like getting one of those families that goes through this training to feel comfortable and empowered enough to go before the Palm Beach County or Broward County Commission and share their story, to put a human face on what food insecurity and housing insecurity looks like. And maybe that educates one of these elected officials and they end up taking a tour, in some way. So advocacy and social change can be measured one person at a time. And we do think that has major ripple effects. So hopefully that helps answer it a little bit. But I do just want to be clear,
Yes,
we're
it
not
does.
expecting with
Thank
a
you.
$2,500 grant for you all to radically change very entrenched systems. We believe in you. We think you can get there, but we don't want you to be stressed thinking that one $2,500 grant, can change everything overnight. It's an investment in saying that we trust you all and believe in you all.
Thank you.
Sure.
Another question from
Sure.
Dorian. To that end that you were just speaking about, is it potential, so that the impact could be one person at a time? If there's one stellar student that stands out and it's kind of like a reward system, maybe getting them the assistance they need to take the next step in their journey. Could it be like a scholarship kind of thing? So if there's like a major course participation fee in a public speaking venue or something like that, could we underwrite essentially a student with the goal that they would be making social change?
Yeah, I think all of that absolutely is something that somebody you could apply for, from the Pace Center for Girls. I think an individual, right? Like where the grant eligibility comes is if an individual was applying saying like, hey, I need a scholarship for this particular thing. We don't fund individuals. We do fund organizations. So if your organization is saying, hey, part of our programmatic work is, sending young girls in the program to this particular conference, we have the ability to, send 5 of them, and this grant would help underwrite that cost for them. That certainly could be something somebody applies for.
Okay, I'm not saying that's what we'll do. It's just, I just was curious. Okay, thank you.
Sure. These are all wonderful questions. Well, Taquito or Stacy, any other thoughts you want to share? I may have missed something. There could be a nuance that's really important that I glossed over. Anything else you want to share about the grant making program?
I mean, I can share a little bit about why I raised my hand to partner with Judith as a co-chair. So my day job, if you will, is with Homeland Security. I do strategic planning, data analytics, and a bunch of other stuff. And I do support the Women's Foundation, both on the Professional Development Committee and now with Judith at the Giving Circle. I think I do live in Palm Beach County, so definitely that has something to do with it. But I really love and I'm inspired by not only the work that you guys are doing, but the fact that we can be able to partner with you, even if it's in such a small way. To some people, I do think every stone has that ability to have that ripple effect that can enact, bigger change. And so I'm excited to see what you guys present to us. I want to say that your work speaks for itself probably already, and we're just here to partner with you. And feel free to reach out to, I'm still in the learning mode, but definitely if you have questions and so forth, feel free to reach out to Judith and myself. And we're just excited to be a part of this process with you guys.
Thank you, Stacy. And I see, Mary Ellen, you have your virtual hand raised.
And I think Stacy just answered my question. I was going to ask, as we work through the process, who can we reach out to answer any questions? So Judith and Stacy?
Yep, Judith.
Yeah.
Know my own name. Yes, you can reach out to me or Stacy. And I was trying to say Takita, but I was calling her Judith because sometimes we share one mind. So yeah, so Takita is our full-time executive director, or Stacy and I as volunteers and co-chairs of the Giving Circle. All three of us are very happy to answer any questions you have along the way.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the grants, again, the proposals are due April 15th at 5 p.m. via email. It's on the application. And then the grants committee comes together throughout April and May to review all of the grants. And we do sometimes come back to you all with follow-up questions during that period, but we make our final grant decisions by the end of May, and they are awarded in June. And so you will hear from us in early June, letting you know whether or not you did or did not receive the grant. We will follow up with everybody. And then by mid-June, once you sign the grant agreement form that comes, you will be sent your check, so you get the funding right away as well. So we're, again, it's meant to be a quick process, so that way we can get these donations out to folks right away. And then again, we can work with you throughout the year with volunteer projects and things like that.
I have a final question.
Sure.
Well, final for me. Is there any post-award follow-up or documentation required?
Yep, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. So we have a short grant report that we invite folks, the grantees, to fill out twice during the year. And it's similar, like it's a couple of questions. So basically 6 months into it, we ask you to fill out a short report that says like, hey, here's where the grant is going, how it's going, any obstacles you've run into, any additional support you need from the foundation. And then at the end of the 12-month period, we ask for a final report that says, hey, how did the grant go? Any obstacles you ran into? What was the overall success? Can you send us a couple pictures? So there are two short reports that go along with it. A great question.
And what time frame do we need to use the grant funds by, between which and which dates?
Yep. So if the grant period starts June 1, so it's a 12-month period. So what is that? It's then May of the next year. So June 1, 2022 through May, is that 31st of 2023? If anybody can check the calendar. I know I should by now know which months have 31 days, which have 30 and which have 28, but I don't know why I can't keep that information in my head. But it's basically a 12-month period. And some projects, spend it all in the first month, and that just is what it is, and they can submit all their reports. Some, are, their particular project is more in the planning phases, and they'll end up using it in the second half of the 6 months. Some, this is just general support for an ongoing project they have consistently throughout the whole year. So you have 12 months to use the funding. Any other questions we can try to answer for you all? Well, then thank you all for the amazing work you are leading every day in our community. We appreciate you more than we can truly express. And again, good luck with the applications. Contact us if anything is unclear. And we just hope everybody has a fantastic Monday and rest of the week. So thank you all.
Thanks for the opportunity, Judith. And Takita
Absolutely.
and Stacy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.